Hi there, welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in. Today I'm fishing a really popular area, somewhere that's excellent at this time of year. We're basically going into summer now, so we're just losing the spring species and hopefully pretty soon we'll see the summer species starting to turn up. I've got a few variations of rigs to use today, a few different baits. Pretty soon I'm going to drop down onto the reefs, get some baits in the water. Let's see what comes along. So for the first cast of the session, I've got a nice juicy peeler crab and I've mounted that on a pair of Varivast big mouth hooks. Now what I like about the big mouth hook, it's not overly thick in the gauge, so if you do get it snagged up, chances are you'll be able to pull for a break and bend the hook out. But having said that, there's plenty of strength there to land the fish. Let's get this one out in the water anyway. Well, that'll do for starters. It's a nice bit of tide going through it at the moment. And that really is the lifeblood of fishing here in the channel. We do need that tide to catch fish a lot of the time. Just letting out a little bit of line, just help the lead grip into the bottom. Lovely. Well, I expect you can see how hooped over in the tide that rod tip is. Like I say, the tide really is tearing through at the moment. But it's good that the rod is in a constant curve the way it is. The last thing you want to see is a rod tip which pulls over and then flips up and pulls over and flips up, because that's just basically telling you that the lead's not in the bottom and it's getting pulled out by the tide. So with the second rod, I'm just going to lob this one out 40 or 50 yards maybe. I think it does pay to vary your distance, and if you are using two rods then it does make perfect sense really. I've got a small whole crab bait on a single short shank 2/0 hook. Oh, that wind's trying to pick up now. We don't really want that, but it's the Welsh coast has gone a little bit cloudy, and yeah, like I say, the wind's picked up and it's certainly gone a bit fresher. Hopefully it doesn't come to much. Just putting together a bait here with a crab and a small squid. Should make quite an appealing little package. Well, just to show you how the weather can turn like it does, you can see the blue sky behind me, but if I come round to the north, you can see we've got all this wind and cloud and generally colder weather coming from the north, and it's really taking the edge off the temperature. Just goes to show how much it can change in a session. Well, the sky across the channel really has gone black as sin now. I've just seen John is wound in his first bait. I think I'm going to do the same actually. I wouldn't be surprised if there was rather a lot of weed on this. Well, that's one lead gone anyway. And there's the weed. Yuck. I kind of knew that was coming. That's the trouble. You're fishing in these tides. If you leave a bait out for any length of time, you can collect a fair old bit of weed on your main line. Well, I can't see that wind dropping now. It does seem to be here for the day, I'd suggest. Shouldn't really have a negative effect on the fishing though. Well, it couldn't get any worse at the moment anyway. Well, I've just had a nice sort of semi-drop back bite then. The tip just kind of sprung up. It's come back down again, but it was a very sudden bite. It was definitely a fish anyway. There she goes. Come on. It's always good when you get that first bite of the session, and up until that point it's been quiet, and it just gives you a sort of renewed sense of hope really. Now I'm just hoping it's not one of those small congers like we saw John have earlier, because you do get quite a few of them here at this time of year. I don't know, it's quite a subtle bite now. It's still there having a look anyway. Well, let's take a look and see if we can turn this bite into a fish. It did look very much like whatever it was quite content to sit there and have a good old munch, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if she is hooked. Let's have a go. Yeah, there's something there, I think. It's not very big. There are a few dogfish around at the moment, and I just wondered if it could be. Oh, I was saying that. Oh, no, that's the lead gone. Now, I would imagine that it's a small ray or a dogfish. It doesn't feel huge. It's always a job to tell. You can sometimes be winding in a quite sizable fish, and it's not doing a lot, and it doesn't feel particularly heavy. And likewise, you can be bringing in what you think is something half respectable, and it turns out to be something not very respectable, but there's certainly something on here anyway, so let's wait and see before we speculate any further. Now it looks actually like it's going to be one of those horrible small congers. And that's exactly what it is. Yuck. Not very appealing fish. But there really are loads of these in the channel nowadays, and it's a real job to get past them at times. And actually, interestingly enough, if you can see that, there's some historical sort of wound on that fish where at some stage of its life something a lot bigger has got hold of it. Let's get rid of this one and get the next bait out there. Well, this is looking to be one of those really difficult sessions. I mean, I've had a small conger, John's had the same, and we've seen the chap up from us have one, but no decent fish, and that wind has just crept up the whole time we've been here. It makes it really hard work. Well, that's a bite then on the left-hand rod. I'm going to hold the rod on this one actually, and just, there's not a lot of tide running, so you do need to kind of pick your moment if you want to hook the fish. Well, we got it, but it's not very big. I'm wondering if it might be a, a dogfish or... Oh, it's suddenly gone a bit heavier. It's gone in the bottom, that's why. Come on. Oh, you absolute beast. There we go, she's come out of the bottom. But is the fish still there? Like I say, it wasn't very big anyway, I don't think. And I've got a feeling that she's come off. Unless the little bit of weight that I am feeling there is just the fish with the lead gone. We'll soon find out. She's not very far out now. No, we've got the best part of nothing at all on there. It looks to me like it's going to be one of those days. Well, when you get a bite like that and you wind in and that's what you're left with, you know there's only one culprit to blame. I think in actual fact it's going to be a good time to chip off now and perhaps come back in a day or two, see if we can find something a little bit more worthwhile. Look at the state of that. Well, after failing dismally to catch anything of any note a couple of days ago, I really fancy getting back out again this evening. Conditions absolutely scream bass, there's a real surf on the water. I've dispensed with the beach casters and I'm literally just going to fish the one light rod in the surf. Hopefully there's some bass to show for it. Well, this really is textbook conditions. I've been looking forward to this all day, just knowing how strong that wind was last night and how it was dropping off this evening, just leaving that lovely bit of surf there. So here's the rig, simple running ledger, carp rod, small reel, nice lump of crab on a 6.0 Varivas circle hook. Now, I cannot wait to see what happens this evening. I'm really excited about this one. Now, there's not much water here at the moment, but I think when the flood gets underway, it could lump up a bit more again. So, let's see what this brings though. No need for distance casting. That wind is literally going to have pushed fish up into the bay. And going on past results, like I say, this really is textbook. It doesn't get much better than this. Now, I've brought the tripod with me this evening, but I'm hoping I won't need to use it because I'm going to be getting bites from the off. We'll see. Get out a little bit more line, so I'll just bring the tip round, a bit more of a comfortable angle. Lovely. And when you're fishing in this way, you do get very, very tuned into what's going on. You can feel the rollers as they come across the top of the braid. You feel the tip pull over and it comes back up. And it becomes very rhythmic. And as soon as you feel something different, something that hasn't already happened, that's usually the sign that there's a fish taking the bait. And I think the majority of the small codling have moved on now as well. Did I have a bite then actually? It did feel a bit like that. No, probably not. As I say, you get tuned into... Oh no, that's definitely a bite. No, I didn't think it would take too long. And now I've said the codling I've cleared off, hopefully it's not it's not going to be a codling. Yeah, whatever it is, it's having a good peck. I've said before about dropping the rod tip, or at least moving it in the direction of your gear, just to give that momentary bit of slack line. I do feel that's so important when you're using braid. What you've got to remember is as well, I'm only using a 2.5 ounce lead on this outfit, so it is going to get washed around a bit in the surf line. But I'm certainly feeling something through the rod tip that it doesn't just feel like general drift of the lead. But it doesn't feel like a bass either, not just yet anyway. Well, that kind of looked like a bite there. Yeah, that's definitely a bite. Go on, a little bit more persistence, take it away. Take it away. Remember, I've got that 6-0 circle work, so if I don't hook a fish, it's probably because it's too small for the hook, and that's not a problem. What I don't want to be doing is wading through dozens of small codling. Now there's a bait that's been absolutely torn to shreds. Now the main culprit is going to be those small codling, but also I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few eels and other small fish moving around out there this evening. Got to get that changed. Well, the tide certainly turns now. You can hear it in the water, you can see it, it's very visual. You can see everything getting pulled towards the point, loads of white water, and it's quite an audible thing when the tide turns here. You really do actually hear it. Let's get this next bait out anyway. So I've gone a little bit further out again with that one. I've got to be careful though not to cast it too far, because in a minute literally everything is going to be sucked towards the point and that little lead is just going to be gone. It's lovely to fish like, but you do have to be, you know, constantly thinking about its limitations. That seems to be sat there quite nicely for the time being, but I'm sure it will come round to the right of me here. Beautiful bit of evening sunshine anyway. So the wind was set to decrease this evening, but it's obviously increasing. It's really picking up actually. Loads of surf out there. Absolutely screaming fish though. I've always said that with bass fishing, if you can barely stand up, that's when you want to have a bait in the water. Now that's what you call a bass bite. And I was a million miles away from the rod. Come on. Dear oh dear. Talk about number 7 bust, she's back. She's there as well. She is there. And this feels like a nice fish as well. Now if I go off camera, you're going to have to forgive me. Now she's moving with that tide, going right up tide. Absolutely amazing scrap. Now I've just seen her, she is a good fish. And she's gone. She's just gone. Well, there's nothing more infuriating in fishing than losing a big fish, especially when you see her on the surface. I just wish I got the camera angle around so you could have seen her too. It was a really solid looking fish, broad across the back, probably 6 or 7 pound, possibly even more, we'll never know. But I've got another one back out there now. Let's hope the lightning does strike twice. The only other person who could relate to the pain you feel when that happens would be another angler. It goes through your mind, could I have done anything differently? Did I do something wrong? Don't think I did. That fish was literally hell-bent on getting away, and she did. Still very frustrating, especially when I upped my tackle to deal with fish like that this evening, because I knew they'd be here basically. Still, there's plenty of time left yet. You've got to laugh or you cry. Fish on. Now this is a bass again, and it's doing exactly the same as the last one, swimming over to the right hand side. And I go a little bit easy. Now, it's always good to try and keep your cool when you're playing a fish. What have we got? Yeah, it's definitely a bass. Nowhere near the size of the last one, but still a nice fish. Next swell. Remember I said I didn't bring a net with me? Well, this is where I'm kind of regretting that. Think, actually. Yeah, we're good on that one. Well, there you go. It took a little while, but I was absolutely certain that there would be some really nice fish here tonight. And that is a prime lump of Bristol Channel bass, taken on just a carp rod, a couple of ounces of lead, and you can see the circle hook there, nailed in the side of the mouth, just like it should be. That first fish, that felt like a serious fish, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was a little bit bigger than what I'd originally estimated it at. Like I say, we'll never know. But this is why we fish with such light tackle here. It's such tremendous fun. It really is. Look at that. Pristine, beautiful looking bass. Well, it really is time to head for home now. The tide's pushed me off the mark and it's time to get on back, but I've had an absolute blast this evening. I've got to admit, I am still haunted by that lost fish. It did look a good one, but we'll never know. That's what happens in fishing sometimes. But what can we learn from these last couple of sessions? Sometimes the weather will change and you've got no say in the matter. You've got to change your plans and just go with it like I did this evening. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this episode. Look out for more to come. If you've been enjoying it, please hit the subscribe button, leave some feedback. I really do appreciate it. I'll catch you next time.